No,
So
how
sorry.
does education, poverty, family dynamics, and resilience intersect from your point of view?
Education, family dynamics, poverty
Hmm.
intersect.
Yeah, from your point of view.
Hmm. That's a very, very in-depth question.
Hmm.
Um, it's tough for me to break that down, I'll be honest with you. Um, I mean, the only thing that I can say is like I taught for 22 years.
Nice.
Um, and most of my teaching was in South Central Los Angeles.
Hmm.
And I definitely noticed that people were very kind of assuming things were taking place that weren't taking place. Like I've shared before, like when I was there, I would be asked like how I would be able to get the students to perform on their exit exams because in high
Hmm.
school they had to take the exit exam. And I noticed the principal would say to me like my expectation was too high and I needed to go lower. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I definitely noticed like other people would look at where people were coming from and like
Hmm.
socioeconomic status and all this where they live and they would almost assume for me I didn't do that. I understood that there were challenges and I would still make certain that the students were getting the same exact standards curriculum that any student would get. um, I worked in Santa Monica as a student teacher.
Hmm.
So I definitely noticed that there was a difference. And then I also worked in Catholic school for a couple of years too. So I definitely had like kind of like a range of where I was and what I saw. But I'm kind of this educator that always has believed that I don't care where you live, where you're
Hmm.
from, what's happened, and I've come from lots of trauma myself. You can do what you want to do. Like you're
Hmm.
capable no matter what. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, 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 no. It's all perspective. So, which did you start?
Yeah.
Did you start out in South Central LA, or did you start out in Catholic school, or did you start out with Santa Monica? How did kind of like chronologically?
Well, so I went to Loyola Marymount University, which is
Hmm.
near like Los Angeles airport, LAX. So they would place me near there. So they put me in Santa Monica School District and they
Hmm.
put me in Redondo Beach School District. Those school districts, because of property taxes, right? I will say I think they have a lot of resources. And then I was after I graduated, I went to Catholic school for 2 years, and that was at a school near LAX. And then after that, I went to Inglewood and taught fourth grade. So very different areas, very different dynamics, situations in all three of those. And then from there, I was in like mostly South Central, like Hoover
Okay.
and 61st Street. I did academic recovery, which is students, unfortunately, like they don't make it in high school for whatever reason. So I had to try to get them back. And that was like in Watts. Um, so mostly again. And then my most recent was fifth grade for about 9 years. That
Hmm.
was like Martin Luther King Jr. in Maine. So
Okay.
still like the same area, but even in that, you have different dynamics happening as well, right? Depending
Hmm.
what part of Los Angeles you're in.
For sure. What is something amongst all the socioeconomic status? Was there one kind of similar dynamic between all of them, or was it just night and day difference, just depending on where they were from? Was there anything you saw similar kind of for you?
I mean, this is not socioeconomic status, but what I
Hmm.
did notice is the students who came from like a two-parent household,
Hmm.
like the students who were in the Catholic school, most of them had a two-parent household.
Hmm.
Mom was home all the time. Um, they would be in the classroom, they would listen to instructions. I didn't have a lot of issues with like, dare I say this word, but behavior, right?
Hmm.
When a student, for whatever reason, it's not working out, right?
Hmm.
Um, I did notice when I moved in to the other areas, there was a lot more quote unquote behavior issues. The kids like we're not we're not okay. Like I had a student in the Catholic school I taught at who he would just be shouting out like I'm Santa Claus, and I was like something is going on with this young third grader. And it was interesting because he had just come down from San Francisco and been separated from his father.
Okay.
So
There it
it's
is.
really
Yeah.
interesting. Like when I started going into different areas, I would see certain things as this isn't really a kid who's got a behavior problem. This
Right.
is someone who's experienced life and now it's coming out
Hmm.
in these ways that manifest. And so some people will try to label that kid as like a bad kid. That is not a
Right.
bad kid.
Right.
I would always figure this out pretty quickly, like something's going on,
Hmm.
or something happened that's making it where they're just not able to just sit there, read the book, do the math, sit in the chair, do their collaborative groups. It just wasn't happening. Yeah,
Hmm.
they had stuff going on. But that wasn't really socioeconomic.
No, no,
That's a
no.
little
That's
bit of
it.
a different factor, but that's the one that I've noticed the most in 22 years.
Yeah. Have you ever seen The Wire? You ever seen that TV show?
I haven't because I feel like that's a pretty violent show.
Hmm. So only reason I bring it up is because it is a pretty violent show. I think it's if you're into HBO and like The Sopranos and all of that. They had a season where they had all these kids. It's inner city Baltimore, right? There's one kid, Daquan, and it's really I think it's probably one of the saddest stories ever. He's very bright. He can fix computers. He doesn't have any formal training, but his parents are drug addicts. And so a lot of the kids will make fun of him because his clothes will smell. And so one of the teachers would allow him to shower downstairs. Like he would allow him to do his laundry and stuff. And he bought him new clothes. And then one day he's like, why is he not wearing the clothes? He said his parents are, they're selling it. They're pawning everything off for money. But he's still brilliant because of that. But he's so smart, he gets moved up. He's like, you should get out of here. And he's his only support system. He sees him like a couple years later. He's a drug addict too. And he becomes, just out on the streets and stuff. And it's just like, man, just so much potential, just like in the right situation, what that kid could have been for him. And then passing that on, change his life, his family's life, and that just domino effect of being able to just kind of just pass on just abundance for everyone else. And it's just like I wonder how many Daquans are out there in that situation. It just really gets you thinking. I'm like, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think there's so many. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
like all the people who have those dreams, right? And then they
Mm-hmm.
like something happens traumatic in their life, and then it just completely like takes them out. And they may never they may never come back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you become a teacher? Is that something you always thought you wanted to do? How do you fall into that profession?
So it was another teacher. So when I was in eighth grade,
Mm-hmm.
I had a teacher who said to me, "Oh, you really like hanging out with the younger kids." Like I would be just like out on the playground and I would always just have younger kids around me. Like I was just constantly kind of around them. And I think she just was like, have you ever thought about being a teacher? And then that was kind of
Mm-hmm.
it. I did not have anyone really looking out for me, and I came from a lot of trauma myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think finally, when an adult noticed me and
Mm-hmm.
said, "Oh, I think you could do this," I really like latched onto it and I was like, "Oh, okay. Oh, now I kind of have a purpose. Oh, now I kind of see, what's out there for me."
Nice. What do you feel that kids need most from their teachers?
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is gonna sound so cheesy, but the first
No,
thing that
no.
comes out is like, it's like love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to believe in the kids. So I was a really strict teacher. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
be really honest about that. But those kids knew that I loved them and I was there to like fight for them and make
Mm-hmm.
sure like they were protected and they got what they deserved. So I think that's what kids need, somebody who's paying attention, who
Mm-hmm.
sees them as like the whole picture,
Right.
who can go, okay, this person's, shouting out, I'm Santa Claus. I'm not going to yell and scream at this kid. I'm going to, of course, going to have some sort of classroom discipline or then nothing happens. But you have to look kind of past what's going on, and you have to really look at the person. Like there's like an actual human being in there that, like you said, has hopes, has dreams, has
Hmm.
passions. It's like my job to get them to kind of know that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would also say too, probably the hopes, dreams, and passions, but also understanding fears and insecurities too, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
fear of not. I've seen at times too, fear of not wanting to be too smart because they don't want to get teased, or fear of that might be something too, or fear. You know, you're in a sense. I don't think your job is any different than any professional coach or NFL, NBA. I think it's kind of like it's the same. It's the same in the sense of psychologically, in the sense of where if you don't have control, I shouldn't say control, but if you don't have understanding of your personnel, it could be students, of your company, of your team, you see it's kind of always there are consequences for it. You're not going to get the best out of that person. But that whole broad spectrum of their humanity, you can't just see that when the person acts up, you have to kind of almost see deeper, which I have a tremendous respect for.
Yes, definitely.
What do you feel that students need from their parents or guardians to be, I don't know if I want to use the term successful, but well, for this, we'll use successful. What do you feel that they need the most in terms of support?
I think it's the same thing. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same. I think it's still love because you would just see like these students, even like the teenagers, they just wanted a connection, like
Mm-hmm.
with their mom. Like I would talk to this one student, I can think of her so clearly, and you could just tell it was like she was just not getting any attention, like any support. Like, how are you doing? Like, how can I help you? What are you working on? I'm going to sit with you and I'm going to like go through it with you, or you can come to me if you have, questions about life. And I almost had to work like a go between, oftentimes between like parents and
Mm-hmm.
especially the teenagers. And I would try to get them to like come together again. Because it seems
Mm.
like when you're a teenager, there's just a lot of, you're trying to
Oh,
be your own
yeah.
person. It's a lot of disconnect. And so, no, I think the kids just need to know that you love them. Like my sister has three children,
Mm-hmm.
and I just told her, I said, look, I said, as long as you say to them, I love you, I go, I'm telling you, even though my own father, who I love more than anything, he was really hard on me. I mean, typical stereotype of that dad who's screaming, yelling, he's stressed out, working 11 to 11. But he would say to me that he loved me. So even though he was that harsh, I knew. I
Mm-hmm.
knew my dad's love. My mom, she's really distant. So that was a
Mm-hmm.
little tougher. So I think kids need to know you love them, you're there for them, you support them. I think that's what they need. Yeah.
I think that's very interesting too, and I'll bring it back to another sports analogy. When you feel a coach is yelling at you, but you don't feel that they care about you, you're gonna say, I'm gonna do just enough, just so he shuts up." But when you know your coach really actually cares about you, that coach can go irate, but man, coach probably has my best interest at heart. Coach keeps it real with me. He wants the best for me. I may not want to hear it. I may think he's being too intense at times, but if I truly feel that way, I'm gonna, I'm gonna more so look at myself more than if it's just like he doesn't care. It's almost like looking at somebody abusing you or coming from this sense of just being sadistic. And it's like they just get off
Hmm.
on having power over me, but truly care. It's like I may not want to, but I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna try to implement what they want me to do as much as I feel that I'm right, as much as I feel that I don't want to do it. It has a funny way of falling into place.
Yeah, I had a coach just like that. I did basketball. He yelled and screamed at us. He like threw his, ref doll. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
he should have been collegiate. This was like elementary school, but I
Nice.
loved him more than anything because he
Mm-hmm.
saw me. He would be like, "Oh my gosh, look at her. She's hustling," or "Oh my God, look, she went around with her medicine ball. She got here
Mm-hmm.
before anyone else. She's doing her
Right.
laps." And even though he like yelled and screamed, I still think of him when I'm like walking and I'm
Right.
starting to get tired. I can hear him like pick him up, put him down, like,
Hmm.
and it's crazy because he yelled and he
Yeah, yeah,
screamed, and I still am like, I would do anything for that guy. Like I would
yeah,
do anything because
yeah,
I
yeah,
knew, I knew he saw. Yeah.
yeah. I think it's crazy too. Sometimes you might not even realize it till years later. So you don't have that epiphany now, but it's like you might not see them for 15 years later. It's like, man, so and so was really looking out for us. That they really cared. I was like, they weren't just being mean. It's like, man, they knew exactly what I was trying to do and kind of where I was trying to go. And they saw me before I saw myself, what I could potentially do. It's like, I never really got a chance to thank that person, but it's like it always sticks with you. But a good teacher as well, somebody you might not have seen since fourth grade, maybe they might not even remember you, but you get any celebrity kind of going back to it. So yeah, my third grade or fourth grade gym teacher, I just remember how she or she was, and it was just her energy, just to remember, just had a profound effect. Um, I think that can be amazing. But you've been teaching for 22 years, correct? Are you still currently going?
No, I stopped after 22
Okay,
years.
no, nice. That's a nice run. What kept you motivated during those 22 years? I know there had to be ups and downs. So,
Yeah, no, there were like so many ups and downs. Like teaching is a roller coaster ride.
mm,
I honestly do not know what kept me going, except my father is an extremely hard-working man, like
mm,
super responsible, like so much grit, so much resilience, and I have that like same drive in me. Like I don't stop. Like I keep going. Like when they say things like, "Oh, we want them to pass the exit exam, what percentage can you get?" It becomes like a challenge for me. And not like a bad one because I was like,
oh yeah,
these kids need to pass. Like they need to get, and they had like a 52% passing rate, and I go, I'm going to get 100. They're like, "Oh, please. Drop it down to
mm,
75." And I'm like, "No, 100." And I've always known that there's something that drives me. I honestly think it might be genetics because I've got some pretty responsible, hardworking people on both sides of my family. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I've always been like that. I mean, if I'm given a job, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it almost to like a high degree. Like that's just how I was, I think, raised, and I care. I think I have a lot. I have a lot in me that I have a strong sense of justice as well.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. What's the most rewarding aspect of being a teacher? Well, what was the most rewarding aspect of being a teacher?
I mean, it's interesting. I was talking to my husband about this earlier.
Mm-hmm,
It's always the students who are struggling, and then you see them, and then you help them, and then you
mm-hmm,
see like the light go on, and you're like I even said to him today, I said I was supposed to have that student in my class. He was
mm-hmm,
supposed to cross my path. I was supposed to support him.
mm-hmm.
I was supposed to recognize that he was there, and regardless of what everybody else is saying or believing or thinking, I was like there to be like almost like his steadfast person.
I
um
like that.
But yeah, that's what I do. I definitely remember those students. They stand out to me. Yeah. Mhm.
As far as the system, the educational system, and it can be linked to different facets of life. If you could have complete control of everything, you could snap your fingers and you could make things enact like that. What changes would you like to see enacted to the educational system? If
This
you
is
had
gonna
all
go
the
on.
power,
This is gonna go on for hours
that's
because
good. I'm
I'm
comfortable.
telling
I'm
you,
there.
I'm telling you, like this is yeah, this is a big thing for me.
Mm-hmm,
Number okay, there's a lot. So when I was teaching in South Central, they had something called professional learning communities, and I
mm-hmm,
was put on the leadership committee, and we had to look at the textbooks and what textbooks to adopt. I'm going to tell you something that is not going to go well when people hear this, but it's good for parents and people to know. Curriculum is graded. So you can get the A curriculum, the B curriculum, the C curriculum, D, F. The school I was working at was giving them a very low grade curriculum, and
mm-hmm.
it was because of money. We want the $50,000 curriculum, even though it's not the best curriculum. It's not giving them what they need. It's not setting them up for success. They're taking these tests that are so high level, they don't have a chance, right? They're not going to get the scores. They're not going to get into those colleges. So everyone should get the A curriculum. Everyone. So I fought for that. And they gave me a lot of pushback. It took me about 5 years to get them to give those students the A math curriculum. So that to me doesn't make any sense at all. Why do we have different curriculums and why do certain people only get the curriculums that are low level? So
Mhm.
yeah, that's pretty mm. um the other thing is, I mean, I don't want to go on a rant, but this is tough
Hey,
because
let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
again, I worked at a school that was a charter school and I
Hmm.
was there for 9 years. So there's the CEO, right? And then that person has the principals. And then they would just keep adding and adding and adding more higher level people. So they're paying six figures to like the CAO now. Now there's a new director of HR. Now there's someone above that person. And they would just keep adding and adding and adding. But they would never put the money where the money should have gone.
Hmm.
Like we didn't have a social studies curriculum the entire time I was there. For 9 years, they used this super old one and they would not let me get a new one. 9 years. Why are you getting all taking this money and giving it to some position we probably don't need? Why aren't you giving it to the students? Like why aren't you giving me resources for my English language learners? Right? Things like that.
Hmm.
Or the students with special needs. That's another thing. Then I'm going to say something again. This is not popular, but there
Yeah.
needs to be there needs to be more oversight. Things go on at schools that you don't want to know. Where I had a student with special needs and they weren't addressing his special needs and I said something about it. They moved the student out of my room. They didn't help the student because they don't want to get in trouble. And they know that I'm a person who's going to constantly advocate for the student. And schools don't like that. Schools don't want you advocating for the students. Sounds bizarre, but it's true. The admin doesn't want you to say this person needs testing because that's going to cost them $15,000. So we're going to
Um,
pretend the student is fine. We're going to ignore it, right? So, like, that in the educational system needs to be definitely addressed. And of course, mental health,
mhm.
that just breaks my heart. They would give my students, I think, maybe 5 or 10 minutes a piece. That's no, that is no way to do any sort of mental health treatment, therapy
Five
for,
or 10 minutes of a mental of a.
like you go to a therapy appointment and
Oh,
like
that and
mine,
that's what they
my
get.
appointments are like, they would get like
Okay,
5 minutes. Like it was,
5 minutes.
yeah, it's no, it's really, it's horrible. And they don't want to do the therapy. Like you have to almost like threaten to report them if they don't give the student the therapy. So the educational system is,
Yeah.
it's not good. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's just, parents need to really keep track of what's going on. You need
Hmm.
to be extremely involved. You better be on it. Make sure, they're doing what they should be going through a curriculum and they should be following standards and there should be someone making sure that that's occurring. Not just here's a page that I got off the internet. There should be like something that's from a curriculum that's an A curriculum and you know, things like that. But anyways, like I said, I could go on because there's a lot of issues with
Oh,
the
I
educational
got you.
system. Yeah.
I got you. No. As a teacher, how have you seen students' trajectory affected by trauma, instability, and systemic failures? Can you recall anything that you may have seen firsthand, an example? You don't have to use any names, but just to give
Yeah.
people a better idea.
I mean, I've seen a lot of that, unfortunately.
Mm,
It's hard to know like what's actually occurring at a student's home, right? But when you have a student who's reading at a pre-primer level, which is before kindergarten, and they're a fifth grader,
right.
and they only come to school twice a week, we have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And when they say like I'm going to Disneyland or I got my nails done,
Right.
And then you're like, okay, what's going on? And you try everything in your power to figure out like, why is this happening? Why is this person not being taken to school? What's going on with this person? So that's kind of an extreme case because that student, I don't think she hardly made any progress. And the mother did not seem to be willing to adjust that situation. Um, Other things like, of course, I've had students who've unfortunately had to be hospitalized for mental health. And then if that's going to lead to them to miss out, right? They're going to
Right.
have a month or two of no schooling. So then you see things like, oh, this fifth grader is writing, but his letters are out of order. And he's not writing like a fifth grader, he's writing kind of like a kindergartner. But then when you look at his history, he has a lot of history of, throwing chairs or acting out, or like I said, he's been partially hospitalized. Um, those are the ones that immediately come to me. But yeah, trauma always affects students. One
For sure.
every single time. Every single it affects them all the time. If you have a student who's acting out, so to speak, it's because there's something going on. There's a trauma that's hit them. Yeah.
For sure. Do you have any examples of breakthroughs that you've seen with students?
So I had one student who I was thinking about, as I said today. Um, he was not being accepted for who he was. So in my class, I taught fifth grade the past 9 years, and maturity levels have really grown in the last, I would say, 10 years, like pretty rapidly.
I have a
So,
question for you. I don't mean to.
okay.
So that growth of maturity, do you see that for better or for worse?
I mean, I think it's good. It's just that the educational system doesn't address that the shift has happened.
Okay.
So you have kids in fifth grade who are dealing with like sexual identity and they don't know what's going on
Hmm.
because they're not teaching them until the end of fifth grade that class. But that health class should be like all the way in fourth grade.
Hmm.
So the student was definitely saying to me things like, I want to be in the girls' group, but he presented as a male. And then he kept getting bullied and he eventually was hospitalized because he wanted to hurt himself and get rid of his maleness. So
Oh.
he was going to do it. And then thank goodness I referred him to the vice principal, and the vice principal pulled in the pet team. And the pet team was like, this is actually very serious. He would have died if he had done that. So he was able to get help and then he was able to come back. And then the last time I saw him, it was so great because we were at fifth grade culmination and his dad showed up and he starts crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And he goes, no, you don't understand. My dad is here. He's like, he's supporting me. Like, he was so worried that like he was going to be like rejected.
Hmm.
Right. And then when I saw him later, like years later, he looks so happy.
That's
He
good.
was, wearing his earrings and he's like walking around and you could tell he was
Hmm.
himself. But it took that to happen, I think, for him to have that moment. Like a break, I would say that was his breakthrough. Like I think he's
Wow.
now able to just freely be him or whoever he identifies as. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
don't know. And I'm not here, right, to judge and do all that. I'm just here to like make sure that the student's okay and they feel like they can express themselves without being bullied, rejected, etc. So,
Wow. Wow. What have you seen? Because 20 years, that's a long time for any career, but especially trends change and things of that nature. But have you seen a change in kind of students' attitudes towards school from maybe, let's say, from the beginning when you started to maybe kind of closer to the end? Has it stayed the same? Has it been a whole different ball game? Has it been about somewhat similar?
so it definitely changed because the pandemic happened.
Right,
So
right, right,
that
right,
changed
right, right,
everything.
right.
So imagine you go to school for a whole year on Zoom and there is
No, thank you.
nobody monitoring you. I
Oh,
had fifth graders showing up topless, shirtless, in their beds, laying around, as if we're watching cartoons. I had kids who didn't even bother to show up. It was a year and a half of this. So then you try to get back and you try to teach them in a classroom setting after, I'm just gonna say it, like Lord of the Flies, like like just
Yeah, yeah,
everything was just yeah.
yeah,
So for
yeah.
the
That's it.
that guy, so then
Yeah,
you try to have them come back and then say, okay, you need to sit in this chair and you need to follow directions. They were like, you can think again. Like
yeah.
they were just like, no, they didn't want to be there. They wanted to do what they wanted to do, and they weren't afraid to say it. So there was a huge shift after the pandemic.
No, I see that. I couldn't imagine. I'm like, man, the fifth. Well, thinking of being in school at any time during the pandemic in high school is something, but I couldn't imagine being in elementary school.
And
Being,
they lost basically 2 years of learning.
I
So
believe that.
imagine you're in fifth grade and I'm trying to teach you fifth grade standards. Like, okay, 13 times 11. And they're like, I don't even know what 3 times 8 is. And I'm not kidding. I'd be like, 7 plus 6, crickets. And I was like, oh my gosh, they couldn't write sentences. It was, they lost 2 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, they did. And I don't know if they ever got it back, to be
Do you see any
honest.
solution? Do you see any solution to make that up, or is that kind of just that's just gone in the ether?
Mm. I mean, we all try it in good faith, right? To do groups.
Right.
Because what you do is, you teach the lesson and then you pull the groups and then you put the groups based on how they're doing and you try to like give them after school tutoring or even like Saturday school. So we did all that. Again, though, they have to come and they have to
Right.
buy in. And I mean, I left in, pretty soon right after the pandemic, to be honest.
Hmm.
So, so who knows? I don't know what's happening now to those fifth graders that I had who were just online.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, I
I don't
never thought
know.
about that, but I did think about, man, if I did feel for the kids who had to be home, where it's like, that's tough. That is it's hard enough to rein them in a classroom in person, but that's now you're going to give these kids computers and hope that they stay on, they could be in their bed. It's like you hope that they stay on task. I'm like, that is a very
And then
tall
they
task.
cut the day. So like they only allowed us to teach from I think 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then we're like, no, don't do afternoon classes. I said, what about social studies and science? We're not doing that. And I was like, and I was doing stuff. I was having them come in the afternoon. I was making lessons for everything. I was like,
Hmm.
oh no, I'm doing this. But then they're like, no, you're doing too much. It's too long for them to be online, which does make sense. It does.
Yeah, yeah,
But that means they didn't get all the standards for those 2 years.
yeah. Something about that experience too. I mean, I know that, technologies, it's always been rapidly advancing, but there's something about that experience of it being in person, of certain experiences, even for, let's say, a fifth grader, let's say a junior in college. I don't think that over Zoom could never in any way, shape, or form kind of compare to the in-person experience that's kind of for the most part has always been. I know it's done out of dire circumstances, but it's just, man, just looking back on it, I think people is going to be an interesting commentary about it. As more time passes, we're going to look and see how insane it was just to have that going at the time.
Yeah, I bet there's studies. I
Yeah.
should look that up because it would probably make me so sad though, because I don't think they're going to be really good. I think it's going to show so many gaps and deficits and yeah, where are they now? Where are those kids now?
Hmm.
That would be interesting to see.
Well, it's only probably gotten bigger. So if they were already there to begin with, they probably weren't trending in the right direction. But now I think that pandemic just almost is like it's even that gap's even bigger now. So it's like it's kind of just really just exaggerated everything else. But what a time to be alive. I have a question for you. So, is there a favorite movie that about teaching that you feel gives an accurate job on what it's like to be you or be a teacher? It could be anyone.
I don't know about the gives an accurate view.
Or
Hmm.
favorite?
I mean, I obviously love like Lean on Me. I obviously love that
Hmm.
movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, because it's like I'm gonna do what I need to do, and you're not gonna stop me. And that's definitely like kind of what I had to do. I was kind of always the one kind of going toe to toe with admin because I was there for the students. I'm not here for you to look good. I'm not here to save you money, right? I am not here to make you look that you're doing what you're supposed to do and pretend that everything's fine. So, like Mr. Clark, I think in that movie, he's definitely
Yeah.
like, no, like we're doing the basic skills test, and these kids are going to do it, and I'm going to hold them to account, but they're going to know I really care,
Right.
and we're going to get them what they need so they can be successful. We're not going to drop the ball on them,
Hmm.
right? So that one definitely like stands out to me as this is what happens between teachers and administrators.
Right.
It's a lot of it is about the teacher has to go to bat so much every day for their students. And the administrators, I hate to say it, like they're not really there to help you. They're there to
Hmm.
almost like make it look like everything's going well at the school. Like we're gonna have this picture that it's
So like
going well.
PR a little bit, right?
Yeah. Oh, I
Okay.
think a lot. I think the whole thing
Okay.
is PR. Yeah.
Nice. I get that. That makes perfect sense. There's also a movie, but it's based on a true story. It's called Coach Carter. Came out in 2005 with Samuel L. Jackson. So it's about a basketball team from Richmond, California, and they were having I think they were undefeated season, but he made the players there sign a contract that you're going to maintain a 2.5 GPA at
Mm.
least. And they're winning. They're having an undefeated season. It's been historical. And he finds out the players aren't living, so he forfeits games. He puts chains on the gym. He locks them out, and everyone's in an uproar. And I remember there was one quote from that movie. I remember she was like, "For a vast majority of these young men, this basketball season is going to be the highlight of their lives." And I remember he said, "Well, I think that's the problem, don't you?" And it was like he got so much push. I was like, it's crazy. He got so much pushback for just kind of being the only one who's saying, I actually care. I mean, there's only going to be so many of you to become a professional athlete. And if you do, that's a percentage of a percentage. But I care more about you to hold you to a standard. And it's crazy how much teachers like that, they get crazy pushback where it's like almost like you don't want to rock the boat or change the status quo. It's pretty eye opening.
Yeah. Definitely true. They don't want you to rock the boat at all. They want you to like do your job. Do not email them. Don't bring up anything. Yeah,
Wow.
just do what you're supposed to do. Like let us do this. Say nothing. Like so you know when you're in school there's like the A through G requirements. So in high school, students need to take certain classes in order to qualify to go to a UC or Cal State.
Okay.
So at my last charter school, they made t-shirts where it showed the A through G requirements the students needed. And I noticed, what the heck? This doesn't match what I even did when I was in school and I went to Loyola Marymount University.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, why aren't they shortchanging these students? Why aren't they telling them, you know what? You should probably have 3 years of a foreign language. You should probably have, anatomy lab, physics, all that. So it is interesting how they would get mad at me because I would bring that up and say, I'm confused as to why the high school students are being told to do the bare minimum. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
college do you really want them to go to? Like, they're not
Right.
going to get into USC, UCLA, which is where they all want to go, by the way.
Right. Of
So,
course.
so
Everyone,
that's
yeah,
why I
everyone
just
wants to go
go,
there.
you have to
Yeah.
give them the tools. But yeah, I remember, yeah, the administrators were always like, no, like, leave us alone. We don't got time for this. Like, and I was, okay, well, I don't know why they were there. I always wondered about that. Why the administrators were there if they weren't actually there to make sure the students were given what they needed to be successful.
Mm.
But
That is a good question. How prevalent is somebody being in fifth or sixth grade and only reading at like, let's say at a kindergarten level? Is that very prevalent?
no, but I will say the majority were testing like second grade,
Mm.
which is
Right.
again, it's heartbreaking.
Right.
Yeah, there's something like seriously not working. It is a very broken system. Yeah, it needs to start from kindergarten. They need to get it as quick as possible because once you go too far, when you are 2, 3 years behind, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
it'll, yeah, it'll say this isn't going to ever be
Well,
okay.
4 years of high school is only 4 years. So you're going from starting from a freshman and trying to catch up to your junior and senior year. That's it's not saying it can't be done, but it's like, man, you want to not start behind the eight ball. It gets harder and
Yeah.
harder when you're
They're
behind.
all start, it's really, and then the really interesting thing is like at the school I was at, they would make me move them forward, which I'm not a big fan of retention either. However, I don't like to pretend they're doing better than they are.
Right.
Like, you can't give anybody a one. You have to give them all, like, threes, fours. Like, almost like, let's pretend they're on the level, but they're not, though. That would
Right.
happen a lot. Yeah. But they were almost every single one of them. Maybe there were two or three who were on level, and everybody
Mm.
else was not on level.
Wow.
Yeah, it's depressing. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It almost wonders. It's almost like you're saying. It almost goes by. It's going by design. A lot of people just kind of just push it through. As long as we look good, it is what it is. I mean, if you learn something great, but if you don't, but we still look good, that's it's kind of fine that way. So, wow.
They get a lot of money at charter schools too.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, because at the last school I was at, I mean, I forget what their reserve was, but it was millions and millions and millions of dollars. And when I found that out, I was even more upset because I was like, you can't give me a $50,000 social studies curriculum,
Right.
but you've got like 40 million in reserve. What are you keeping this money for?
Mhm.
What are we sitting on?
Be careful the questions you ask. I wonder. Yeah, that is crazy though. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they would, schools are actually given grades. So every year people come in to accreditate you. So they would
Hmm.
get an A for finances because they had so much money in reserve. So I think they want to look good. They want A's in all the categories. That's great, but you're still not sharing the money and giving the students resources. So the system that the California state has set up of accreditation is not a good system. Mm-mm.
Wow. We definitely covered a lot. Let me check on time, but we definitely covered a lot today, and this is a fascinating conversation, an eye-opening conversation. But I do thank you for stopping by. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yes, thank you too. Nice to speak with you.